3. Okay, good morning, good day, good night, everyone. My name is Xiomara Balentina. I'm the chairperson of the Statia Cultural Heritage Implementation Committee. That's a long word, a long sentence, but in short, we could say Implementation Committee. I want to say something about the other members who are part of this committee. So as I said, I'm the chairperson. Other members are Petra Ploeg, Felicia Freke, Jean-Marie Schmidt, and Joshua Spanner. Now, what are we to do as implementation committee? We have been tasked with a very important process. Our role as implementation committee is to organize and execute the reburial ceremony for the 69 ancestral remains that were excavated at the 18th century Golden Rock Plantation. And by now, I think a lot of persons, not only in Statia, but in the wider community, are aware of these findings. So we are not only responsible for executing that ceremony, but we have to think together with community, so the descendant community, how we will honor and remember the ancestors. So then we are talking about a memorial space. There will first be a ceremony, and then, of course, the erection of a memorial space. So, and in that reburial ceremony, it also means that the ancestral remains will be put to rest. It's important to note that we have requested a piece of land from the government of St. Eustatius, 3,000 square meters to be exact. And the land that we are looking at is the land situated behind the old church cemetery up at Princess. All right, so we are awaiting word from the Executive Council that we can proceed with the process. So without further ado, I want to introduce my very, 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 very special guest. She has a very beautiful name. Her name is Nkosazana Illis, and perhaps she will also explain to us what that name means, Nkosazana Illis. Miss Illis is the person we have asked to facilitate the libation ceremony in St. Eustatius. So without further ado, I would like Miss Nkosazana to introduce herself to us. And Enko, as you do that, I really would appreciate it if you could tell us a little bit about what inspired you to do this work, because you are a very spiritual person.
Sure. First, I want to say thank you so much for granting me the opportunity to be in this space. And I want to say grand rising to everyone that has tuned in and that will tune in later. Grand rising to you. We are grand and we rise grand. So thank you again for this opportunity. And like I always say, I am not the one doing anything. I'm just an instrument for the ancestors. I am the advocate of our ancestors. And I am a Buddhist. I chant Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. For those of us who know of Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, for 41 years now, I've been practicing Soka Gakkai. I'm a member of Soka Gakkai, SCHIC International, and I have been very different from a child. Let me put it this way. And when I say different to my peers, luckily I have grown up in a household where I call it a beautiful spiritual gift that my mom had, my father, myself, some of my siblings, nieces, great nieces, nephews. And I was always taught that nothing is wrong with you. It's who you always have been and always will be. And so from a child, this have been something that I have been curious about. When things happen, I would see persons that transition, before the transition, they would come and tell me they're transitioning, things like this. So I always have been like this. But as I became a Buddhist and I started to chant more, because I was also a Roman Catholic, but I always felt like something was wrong with the picture for me personally. I can only speak from my own personal experience. And I felt there were more. So when I would ask questions, it would be like, don't question God. And God is, and I was like, but if you don't know the answer, then say, okay, I don't know the answer, Nkosazana. I will look fit for you. I'll come back to when you tell me don't question. Then something you're going to say, like, why not? Why not? So when I met Buddhism at the age of 20, that was it for me. And practicing Buddhism has allowed me to become more in tune with everything because I am my environment. My environment is me. So when I understood that, and I understood that this is what my ancestors have done and have been doing for centuries, they have always been one with everything. And you call it the orishas, and you one with everything, with the sea, with the sun, with the moon, and I always tell persons, my body is Mother Earth, my breathing is a wind, my eyes, one is the sun and one is the moon, my locks or the antennas where I receive the messages from my ancestors, my breathing is the wind, my blood is the water, and my temperature is the fire. So I am the elements. The elements are me. So I am my ancestors are me.
Oh, that's so beautiful. I am my ancestors and my ancestors are me. I've always heard that. What I find so fascinating about you is I see that you have beads and shells. You even have the blue bead. I remember us having a conversation about that. And you wear white. And I also know you as someone who normally walks barefooted. And you would get a lot of questions, not only about why you only wear white, but also why you walk around without shoes. Could you could you speak to that?
Of course, of course. Actually, I started wearing white since 2004, 2001, 4. And it was also a message from the ancestors. I wear a lot of cowrie shells. I wear a lot of beads. And this is honoring my ancestors, or honoring our ancestors.
Ancestors. Mhm.
And everything that I wear is a gift from the ancestors. And I wear my crown, as you can see, as well, because we are kings and queens. That we are kings and queens. It's in our DNA. We have come from greatness, so therefore we are greatness. And we have to acknowledge that. We have to remember who we are. Not only know who we are, we have to remember who we are in order to know who we are. And I always, I said when I chant Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, I pray to remember. So I only wear white. Indeed, I don't wear no other color, absolutely no other color, only white. And it's, as I said, it's honoring my ancestors.
Ancestors.
And my cowrie shells also honor my ancestors. And you said wear the beads, like you said. But this rock that I'm wearing around my neck, as you can see, a chain that I make from, is a rock. My first trip to Gambia, when I went to Gambia, we visited where they kept Kunta Kinte and the other slaves. And while we were there, while I was standing taking pictures, the ancestors said there's a gift waiting for you. It had like a room, like a window cell rooming. And there
Mhm.
was this rock, triangular rock. And when I took it up, the guide said to me, he said, it is not possible. He said, I come here every day. There is nothing there. And I said, this is a gift from my
From the
ancestors
ancestors to you, to
to
you.
me. So I always wear this
Wear
rock,
it. Mm-hmm.
and people say, yeah, but that's crazy and that's evil and that's no.
Mm-hmm.
Ancestors will never harm you. My mom is my ancestor. My mom will never harm me. Now, you have to be able to discern between evil and good,
And
which
good,
is
yeah.
tendencies that we have inside of us. It's
Okay.
nothing outside of you. Everything begins on the inside, Shamara. So if my
Yes.
intentions are negative, as we would say, evil, whatever word you choose to use it, that's what's going to manifest.
Mm-hmm.
If they are
Mm-hmm.
positive or good, that's what's going to manifest.
Manifest,
So
yeah.
it's in your thoughts, your words, and your action. It's
Actions.
one.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
So no one has to tell me who I am. You can see who I am.
Yes.
My action
Yes.
speaks for itself.
That is correct.
So I always tell persons when we are saying that, but this is evil and the ancestors evil, and you're doing obey, as we would call it in the Caribbean certain country, or you're doing witchcraft, or you're doing bruja in Santo Domingo. Listen, what I am doing is just reconnecting with everything.
With the
with
ancestors.
myself, my
Yeah.
authentic self, and the ancestors.
Yes.
Now,
Yes.
without wearing shoes, as you mentioned, I used to wear shoes, normal like everyone else. And 2 years ago, my spirit said when I was chanting, stop wearing shoes.
Mm.
So I decided, okay, I'm not going to wear shoes. And it started to regulate my heart and regulate different diseases that I had in my system. So why would I want to wear shoes again? When you don't wear shoes, you're grounding, you're earthing yourself, and you're reconnected. Just as the trees would grow into beautiful plants with fruits, that's our body, that's our feet. The root, the tree of life is your feet. That's your
Mm-hmm.
soul.
Mm-hmm.
This we talk about. We want to get to our soul. Start from your feet
From your
up.
feet. Mhm. Yeah, I hear a lot of what a lot of what you're saying. It causes me to think because I'm hearing you talking about the importance of connecting with, honoring, being one with nature. So it's very much being in tune with yourself through the elements, etc., etc. Right?
Correct.
Okay. So I really think you are the right person for this task that is upon us, Enko, and it's a huge task. And you and I have been talking a lot about this. As I said, we have asked you to be the one to facilitate the libation ceremony for, the ancestral remains for the ancestors. I think, where I would like to go with this, I would first like to ask you to explain to those listening and watching what is the significance of pouring libations to or for the ancestors? Because you visited Statia in the past, we invited you because we had a town hall meeting. Well, we had a community engagement around the ancestral remains, and you did, facilitate a ceremony there, and you did pour libation. So could you talk to us about what is the significance of these libations? Why do we do it?
I have been doing libation now for quite some time. As you know, July 1st is our Emancipation Day here in St. Martin. I don't say it's emancipation, it's a celebration of our ancestors. So I would do
All
libation
the
there.
islands, eh? All,
Yes,
all, all
correct.
six.
All
Uh-huh.
Dutch Caribbean
Including
islands.
Suriname. Yeah, yeah.
Correct. Yes.
Mhm.
So we do it at our ancestral ground, which is Emilia Wilson Park. So I would do the libation. And I do the libation of 3 times. And the libation means honoring the ancestors of my past, of my present, of my future, but also honoring birth, life, and death. Because it's one, it's not separate from. And I'm telling the ancestors, thank you for paving the 7th generation before me, for paving the way of knowledge, of wisdom, of understanding, of light, of healing, of hope. And I'm telling them, I am going to stand up where you were and I'm going to carry it on, your legacy. But it doesn't stop with me. So I
Mhm.
pass on the baton to the successors, which is the generation after me. And that's why libation is so important. Because when we are carrying out libation, we are saying, thank you.
You.
I am so grateful to and for you. Because of you, I am.
Okay.
And because I am, they will be too.
Mhm. Mhm.
So we have to be able to understand that it's not about me and you, Shamada. It's about all of us. But we cannot continue if we don't recognize and say thank you and honor before us
Yeah. Yeah.
and
It's a
carry on
continuum,
after
eh?
us.
It's a continuum. It's a continuous process because you and I, we are here today, but we are here because of them. So what you're saying is because we are here because of them, we have to honor, we have to acknowledge, we have to remember, right? That's what you're
Correct,
saying. And
correct.
it
And
doesn't end
libation,
with us. Yeah.
no, it doesn't. And libation can be done with water. It can
Yeah.
be done with rum. It can be done with some persons that have to do with the palm oil. So the choice, and sometimes what a person's favorite drink is, if I'm honoring that particular person in a libation,
Yeah.
I will honor it with that. But I always use water because water for me signifies life,
Life. Okay.
purity,
Okay.
continuation.
Yes.
And
So
that's
when
why
you
I
were,
use
go
water.
ahead. Go ahead,
No,
Enko.
no, you can ask the question.
So when you are pouring libations, what is your frame of mind in that moment? And those around you, how do you prepare them in that moment?
Before I start any libation, before I start any ceremony, I ask permission from the ancestors. I ask them for permission. I ask them for guidance. I ask them to be their instrument that they can speak truth through me, always. So I don't just jump up and do anything just like that. No, I don't. And then I would explain to persons that are there what it is I'm doing, that they would understand. Because remember, they are also part of, but it's not a secret. So it's not for me to keep, it's to share. Because one day when I'm not here, it continues. So I always believe in successors.
Yeah.
I am the successor of my ancestors, and I will have a successor after me.
Mhm.
So when we become very selfish and very me, we never would understand. Because our life is the universe, and that's grand.
Yeah.
That's so
Yeah.
grand. But because we only limit ourselves and we only use, let's say, 10% of our brain, I decide to use everything and extras because it's there.
Yeah. Powerful.
Yeah, so we have
Powerful,
to
Enko.
understand. And that's us, Shamari. We are powerful. We are
Yes.
so powerful beyond our own
You
imagination.
always say so. You always say, listen, we come from greatness. When you speak with young people too, you would tell me I would all, and I saw you in action. You said, listen, we come from something somewhere great. And you speak to that. And that is a way to motivate and to make you aware of how powerful you are.
Correct. We always stress on the negativity, and I
Correct.
redirect my focus on positivity. So I
Yes.
choose who I want in my space, in my energy, because we are energy.
Yeah.
And we have to become very mindful,
Mindful of
but
that.
very conscious. We have
Just
to elevate our
yes.
consciousness. And that's the
Yes.
shifts that are happening. But
Yeah.
we have to be part of.
Oh.
And
Mm-hmm.
some persons are going to support you. Some persons
Yes.
don't care. And some persons just, okay. And that is fine too. Because we have to respect everyone where they are on their journey.
I love that. I love that. That is so insignificant and so important for this conversation. We need to acknowledge indeed that we are not all at the same level of development. We are all on different paths, aspects of our journey. And while, as you say, some would be further along, others would be here, we can anticipate how persons would respond to such a process as this. And so, as you said, rightfully said, we need to respect that. Respect those who are taking this path and respect those who say, oh no, I don't want no part of this, as you say. Respect those who will criticize because it's part of a process. And actually the message is that these things can exist at the same time. A lot of times
Correct.
we think these things cannot exist. So it's wrong, or we have an issue with this, do not do this. But you can do this, I can do that, someone else can choose to do something else, and these things coexist. And I think that that is something that is important for all of us, regardless of where we are in our journey, to bear in mind.
Correct. And a lot of us react out of fear, out of
Yeah,
the unknown because we don't understand. We were always thought to look outside of us for everything. So
everything.
we became beggars for ourselves and not
Mhm,
understanding when you are praying, you're not begging. I'm not begging for what's already mine. I'm saying
mhm,
thank you. It's already my own. So
mhm,
you allow it to become bigger
mhm.
and we shrink ourselves. But I have decided, and a long time ago, to walk in my own universal truth.
Yeah.
And of
Wow.
course, persons will see me, and what I love about the people that approach me, they will ask me, Miss, I always see you like this. Why do you do this? Or why do you do that? And I'm a social worker at a high school, and my students would say, don't mess with Miss in a white. And Miss, you okay? Nobody mess with Miss in a white. So it's again,
Okay.
it's how
Mhm.
you portray yourself.
That's
Because I
correct.
do not intimidate no one.
Mhm.
I shine light. I believe and I know I am a light, and that light is to share with everyone. Whether
Everyone.
we see the
Hmm.
sun or not, the sun is always shining. So I tell
Sure.
myself a long time ago, if the sun, you are the sunshine. And
Hmm.
whether person embrace that sun or not, it is okay. I don't
Yes.
take anything personal because I would say that person had a bad day, and that's fine.
Yeah.
Because we take things too personal, and that's how
Personal.
emotional becomes. So, and then we get in wars, we get in fight, and life
Yeah.
is too short for all of that.
For all
It's
that.
about
Yes.
love. It's about
That's true.
unconditional love and hope right now.
Wow. No, and that is a good segue into this other aspect, and that is the actual reburial ceremony that hopefully Enko will take place at the end of this year. We would want the ceremony to take place this year in 2025. And in speaking with persons in the community, because we have had different community engagement events, and those who are interested, they show up, and we are grateful to that, Enko. We are grateful, and we have had conversations with persons from the continent, of course, and this is how we envision the ceremony to be. It's just a guide. It might change as we go along. We are incorporating station elements as well, and what that means is the idea is that we gather at the Heritage House, because as you know, because you've been in that space, that's where the ancestral remains are stored, all 69 of them. So we gather there, and then we have a procession. Now that happens in St. Martin. I know this procession thing is something that that you do here. It's also done in Statia. So then we have a procession, and we go first to the Golden Rock Plantation, the reburial, not the reburial, the place where they were taken from, where they were
Yeah.
excavated, because it was an enslaved burial ground at that plantation. So we go there and we do something there, and I'm going to ask you to maybe say something about that, but I'm just giving the general guideline as to how we envision the ceremony to be. So we go there, we do something there, and then we continue with our procession on to the final resting place. And that is the location we have requested from the local government of Statia. When we get there, we will have a ceremony there as well. And part of this, and this really came from persons from the continent. We were speaking with Queen IG. She's from the state of the African diaspora. She has been in contact with high priests in Benin. They have consulted with the ancestors, through their libations and etc. in the forest and what have you. And one of the recommendations is that we plant 69 trees, one tree for each of the ancestors. And as she was explaining to us, this needs to be a joyous event, because that's how it's done, based on African tradition, bright colors, drums, some music. So as we are having this procession, it's not something somber, but it is a celebration, and it's a way to honor them, because they like joy, they like color, they like music, etc., etc., etc. So in just as a general frame, we have to give further content to that. But I remember us having a conversation, and you said when we go to the place where they were dug up, something has to happen there. Could you say something about it? And also, when we get to the final resting place, could you let people know part of what to expect?
Yes, it's so important that you take them back to that space where they were buried. And why? Because remember, if you dig up a father, maybe a child is still there. If you dig up a mother, maybe the sister is still there. Now you're taking them from one place to bury them on another spot. But going back there to allow the other ancestors to know it is okay. They are taken, but it will not be far. It will be, let's say, somewhere else. You can visit each other. Because remember, when you're dealing with souls and spirit, it's like we have disturbed that spirit. We have disturbed that. So we have to make sure that the space is back peaceful. That is important. Because remember, it's abrupt.
Yeah.
And
Was abrupt.
sometimes when you have spirits lords, they're looking for each other, they're looking for loved ones. But you have to allow them to know they are fine. And that's why when I came to Statia, I cried because I saw, I felt. They were so sad, but at the same time angry because they want to be reburied as soon as possible.
Yes, yes, yes.
As soon as possible. Now, of course, we have to be going by the law and the rules and the regulation, which we have to also respect of the land. We have to respect that as well. At the same time, I also do libation for them every day.
Yes.
Because I had an opportunity to meet the ancestors in Statia. So for me, when I came to Statia, remember I was telling you, I wanted to look for a little boy because he kept coming to me. This little boy kept coming to me. I have to find a name. Give me a name of a little boy between 7 and 9 years old, 13 years old, because this child has kept coming to me. And so I told you that when I came. And then also when we went to the place where we did the libation, we were doing the libation that evening. I went outside and I said the ancestors showed me what they wanted.
Yeah.
Because they came to me before I got to Statia and they showed me what they wanted. So I did the ceremony the way they showed me. Because like I said, I don't do anything for me.
No.
But I remember when you came back with a name and you said to me, the name of the little boy is David Solomon. I cried because I said my great grandmother's name is Victorine Solomon.
Wow. I remember
So
that
I
was something.
knew, yes, that was my ancestor that came to me directly. And then when I look at a particular place, I say the person is pulling me there. And then you said to me, that's where we dug up the remains from David Solomon.
Sure. Yeah.
You remember?
I remember having this conversation. Yes.
So for me, it's not that I just come into Statia to do a libation. I'm coming because my family is there.
You said that
My
to me.
ancestors are there. And that's why the calling was called for me. Sometimes we don't understand the significance of things, but I always said there was no explanation. Just is. And we just say thank you. We just have to say thank you.
So what's
So I will
very
do this.
important. Yes, go ahead. Go ahead.
So for me, going back to the spot where they was taken from is very significant.
Yeah.
To allow the other ancestors to know that they're still one with.
Yes, with. Because as you said, and even as you had said before, we are having this conversation now, you said, there is a big possibility that families have been separated from each other. So,
Correct.
and I believe that to be so. So that
Correct.
is why one of the important things is to go back there and visit, and touch base, because that's important, before we continue to the final resting place. What I have learned along the way in working with this, in dealing with this process, is the importance of spiritual connection. Even though you are not physically in the same place with, there is this spiritual connection that transcends time and space, something that we do not understand, but it's there. Like Queen Ig was saying, we will do a special ceremony in Benin. The persons in Benin, she said, the persons do not have to be physically present in Statia because you are spiritually connected. Like you
Correct.
said, I am my ancestor. I am my ancestor. They are also us. So there's this spiritual connection that you can't see, but it is there. And just to reiterate, Enko, because we're going to enter into a very interesting and ticklish conversation now about, oh, is this evil? We can't comprehend this. Just for public consumption again, a ceremony based on African tradition took place on the continent. That was deliberate, not to have it take place in Statia, but in the continent, because at the same time, Statia is a unique space. You have Christendom there, you have to take these things also into consideration. And you do not want to do anything to scare people, even though sometimes you try, but you can't always prevent that. But we have to take the local reality of Statia into consideration. That's why I talked about the procession,
Correct.
drums, bright colors. We do that in Statia as well. What we are adding is definitely the libations, and we have introduced that to persons who would have participated in the community engagement events that we have had. So we are taking the local condition into consideration, right? So this brings me now to this very important point where I've gotten feedback from some individuals, hey, people are worried about what you guys are doing. They heard ritual, they heard ceremony, and they thought that this type of ceremony is going to play out in Statia. But I was trying to explain it took place on the continent, and every month they pour libations. They go into the forest and they do that. Just as what you say, you also engage in libations for the ancestors, all the ancestors, right? So there's this discomfort though among us about this whole process. And so yes, the feedback I got is, do not open a portal. You open this portal, it's negative, it's evil, and we don't want any evil forces to emerge. So I understand that, because as you said, we are not all on that same developmental path. We are on different aspects of our journey. So you're going to get that. But I want you to speak to that fear, that anxiety that you're going to awaken something evil if you choose to honor the ancestors in their traditional way. Remember, they were caught, they were enslaved, they were brought over to a strange land. That's why we are here, because they were brought over. And erasure, there were attempts to erase everything that they knew and who they were. And so the significance of this is to honor them in their traditional way, because it's not about me being Christian, yes, but realizing that they came from somewhere with their own value systems, with their own tradition. And the best way to honor them is to do that in their way, not in our way, but in their way, based on their tradition. So speak to this fear within community that is there now and will emerge as we come closer and closer to this reburial ceremony.
I'm so happy that you mentioned that, Shamaira. And I also have a lot of, like, when I do July 1st, I go on the radio and I speak about like what we are talking about, but very openly that people understand. Now, you said something very significant. You said our ancestors had their own tradition, and we have to understand that. But Shamaira, it's in our DNA. It's in us. So when we are doing these ceremonies, persons get scared because they're afraid of themselves. Not so much of me who are doing a ceremony, but scared of their own selves. Because remember, it have been conditioned to be suppressed for so many years, generation after generation after generation. But guess what? If it's in your DNA, you cannot suppress that. Because when you start to remember, you cannot stop that as much as you may try. Now, we look at, like, for instance, I mentioned you earlier, I went to the beach this morning. I went to Yamaya in Olokun to do a ceremony before this conversation. Because
Yeah.
I wanted to go by Yamaya, because remember, we were taken by boat on the ocean.
True.
So I can sorry, I can see Statia from St. Martin. So I go there every day and I do my libation. But I did a extra ceremony. So when I got there were 3 men in the water, and I heard a guy said, "Look, the bruya." But he said it very, very soft. You wouldn't hear.
Mm-hmm.
But Oya, which is wind goddess, brought that sound to me.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, "I heard you." He said, "What?" I said, "I heard you." He said, "What did I say?" I say, "You said, Bruya." He said, "I did." I said, "Well, I came here to honor my ancestors."
Mm-hmm.
He said, "Wow." He said, "Are you from St. Martin?" And I said, "Yes, I am." And then I blew my conch shell. I took up my talking drum. I did my libation and my calabash. I did the shakers. I did a whole ceremony. And then one of them came out of the water and he said it was so beautiful.
Wow.
But it's to show you his intention was totally different when I got there from when I finished.
Uh-huh.
So again, I could have gotten upset. I could have gotten angry. I could have cursed them out, but there's no need for that.
No.
But that is disturbing my journey, my purpose. And there is no call for that. What is
That's right.
important is to explain what I'm doing.
Doing.
Because remember, when people do see me dressed the way I dress, they say, "Oh, the Obia woman, oh, the crazy woman." But
Yeah.
that's where they are. But I cannot let that disturb my spirit because I know who I am.
That's it.
And that's the difference.
Yes.
So it's about explaining persons what is happening and who we always have been. And remember, a lot of our ancestors was brought here in conditions that is inhumane.
That's
But
right.
guess what? They kept their spiritual aspect one way or the other.
That is true.
Whether they became Christian, it was enforced in them. They
Mm-hmm.
still did their traditional ceremonies.
Yeah.
They beat those drums with those messages in the drums.
That is true. That is
So
true.
when we hear a drum, it does something to us,
To
all of us.
us. Yes. Yes. Yes.
And we cannot deny that, no matter how
Yes.
much we may try. And I tell
Yes.
persons, you are reading Psalms, you're chanting Psalms, and some of those Psalms are very negative.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm saying that you are comfortable with that,
Yeah.
but you're not comfortable with honoring who you are,
Uh,
then something is
mm-hmm.
wrong with the picture. So we
Mm-hmm.
have to become very mindful and we have to become very conscious minded of what we are
Mm-hmm.
saying, thinking, and doing.
Mm-hmm.
Because remember, if I read a psalm where I'm going to kill this one, I'm going to kill it, what am I busy with?
Mm-hmm.
But I'm comfortable saying these words.
Mm-hmm.
Why?
Mm-hmm.
We have to ask ourselves the question, when we look at voodoo, it's nothing negative in voodoo.
Mm-hmm.
It's about the
Mm-hmm.
law of nature, the law of life. It's embracing every element.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it
Mm-hmm.
is.
Mm-hmm.
But because whoever the white man went and enslaved us, but still are studying us up
Mm-hmm.
until today.
Mm-hmm.
Because we are
Mm-hmm.
very resilient. Listen, we are so resilient. We are here today because of them,
Because
our
of them.
ancestors.
Because of them. Yeah. Yes. Echo, you're saying, wow, you have said so much. You have said, actually, even though we were brought over and other religious practices were instilled in us, they still found a way to stay connected to their traditions. And then you
Correct.
talked about the drums. And I'm going to give you a joke. I'm not going to call their name, but I remember I had a djembe drum. I have two djembe drums. And I was at a family gathering. And I started to play the drum. And two of my aunts were there. And one is a Seventh-day Adventist, and the other one is Catholic. So I started to play the drum. And the one, she said, "Boy, She said, there's something about that drum. When you beat that drum, when you hear that drum, it awakens something within you. And I smile, and the other aunts were like looking at her like, what's wrong with you? But when you said what you said, that it's in us and we don't always recognize that we are still connected to those traditions, and especially through the drum, that messages were transmitted through the drums, because people were not always face to face to communicate. They were from at one plantation and the other, and the drums were their means of communicating, of sending on messages. Now that's powerful. And here you have an aunt of mine in 2025 hearing the drum, is a Christian, but saying there is something about the drum. When that drum beats, it awakens something within you. That is interesting, Enko.
Correct. And that's what I'm saying. And while we are
Exactly.
speaking right now, it's raining outside, and that's a blessing from the
Yes.
ancestors that we
Yes.
are on the right track right now, doing
Mm-hmm.
what we are doing. So that's our
Yeah.
blessing. Just want to mention that.
Yes.
And because, like you said with your aunt, there's something in us that wakes up, but we become so afraid to speak it because we were so conditioned that it is
Yeah.
wrong.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we
That is
miss
true.
all that opportunity.
That
We
is
miss
true.
all that greatness. Now
Yeah.
remember, we are people, we speak through language, through the
Yeah.
drum, through poetry, through music, through art. We speak through nature.
Mm-hmm.
I don't enter a park without asking permission. If the trees don't dance, where am I going?
Mm-hmm.
They're not happy for me to just come on the ground just like that. I don't
Mm-hmm.
enter Yamaya in Ulukun without asking permission to enter the water. If
Mm-hmm.
the water don't touch my feet, I don't enter. Where am I going? If I go in my yard and a wave come and double me up, I say thank you and I would leave. It's time to
Mm-hmm.
go. We
Mm-hmm.
get messages and signs every moment, but we don't, we listen, but we don't hear. I mean, sorry,
Yeah.
we hear, but we don't listen.
Listen.
We are not listening. We are
Yeah.
so busy that everything
Yeah.
passes us by.
Just by. Yeah. So interesting. So then, realizing that we need to respect everyone's process, but do not let it influence your own. As I
Correct.
said, as committee, we are doing this for the ancestors, but also for ourselves. And we will be criticized. There will be people who will show indifference, because you have that in station. You have those who are pretty much engaged, because we have a WhatsApp group with over 50 something persons who are asking questions. Okay, what's the next step? They would like to be part of this process, etc. And then you have those who are plain out skeptical. It's a waste of time. Then you have those who are just indifferent, and you have those plain out negative. You have all of that. But
Correct.
I think what's helpful for me in what you're saying is realizing that this all will coexist. So you will have those persons, but that should not deter you from the task ahead. So we have to
Correct.
move forward with this. It is very important. And I keep saying, Enko, and I talk with you about it. It weighs heavy, because I feel that this is a huge responsibility that I'm not taking lightly. We have to get them back in the ground. We have to honor them in the way that they deserve to be
Honored.
honored.
Correct.
And so it is a very sacred task. It requires patience. And before you and I came on, you said, Shomada, this is also part of our healing. And I want
Yes.
to believe that, because going through all kind of emotions, learning all kind of things that I did not know before, or were not maybe necessarily open to, and in tapping into the different knowledges of persons like yourself and others, you realize, wow, this is something in us, and we need to be open to these things, because whether we want to believe it or not, we're in 2025. Most of us are Christians, but there are, as you say, things are in our DNA, and we do things that we don't even realize. It means that we are connected to the continent. We are not even realizing that,
Correct.
because we are not in tune. And now on this journey, you know what I want to tell you? There's a of me, I had it up on WhatsApp. On WhatsApp. I could be like, I think maybe 12. And Enko, it is in the museum. It's myself and some other classmates at that time. It was in the 80s, the early 80s. And interesting thing about that picture, Enko, that picture was taken on the grounds of the airport because you had enslaved burial site, but you have those from the indigenous persons as well. And so I remember archaeologists were on the island, and back in the day, the practice was, oh, let school children come and let's show them what we're doing. And they had encountered remains, indigenous
Wow.
remains. So that picture captures the moment that myself and a group of others were over the remains, looking at the remains. Now, when I thought to myself, look where I am now in 2025, not knowing that there would be a connection to the early 80s, but actually early 80s, I'm not realizing that in 2025, this is where I would be. And then you ask yourself, is this by chance? I don't think so.
No,
I don't think so. That image, and I have the image, and it's like, boy, that's very, very interesting. So talking about the healing, it is a journey that is very comforting. It can be frustrating at times because of reactions that you get. But as you say, you have to stay focused on you. Do not let the negativity take over, because then that does something to your soul. But could you speak a little to that healing aspect? Why this is important? Why it's important that we're doing what we're doing for our healing, for those who are open to it and those who are ready.
correct.
Mhm.
When I say healing is so important, as the remains are not grounded and not in the ground, the remains are still up on earth. The ancestors are not pleased, they're sad, some angry. And that energy also is within the country. It would be in Statia as well. So you have persons with those same emotions, not understanding the depth or the significance of it.
Okay.
So it's going to cause a lot of anger, a lot of disturbances. Persons don't understand what's happening. But remember, because of our ancestors as well. So the energy of our ancestors is not settled. So that people will not be settled either in
Mhm.
whatever they're doing, but not understanding why they're feeling the way they're feeling or why they're going through what they're going through. The
Wow.
minute the remains are back settled into the earth, it causes a peace. They are healed. So we are also going to be healed. We are going to feel more peaceful.
Okay.
And
That's
that is
interesting.
important.
Mm-hmm.
That is so important.
Mm-hmm.
We don't understand sometimes the dynamics. Like you just mentioned the picture where you're 12 years old. You make that cause at that moment. This is the effect now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You never understood the significance of it then, but
No.
you were chosen from then. You make the choice then to do what
Mm-hmm.
you're doing now.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about choices.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why it's so important for us to understand the choices we're making now to really lay our ancestors to rest is so important
It's important.
because they are on earth for so many years.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
many years.
Yeah. Wow, Uncle. Yeah. I got to let her marinate a bit. You're saying the same emotions that the ancestors are having, some confused, some angry, maybe some whatever, are the same emotions that are being experienced among the community. The
Of course, we
confusion,
are
the
our ants.
anger.
Yes,
We are
yes,
our ancestors. So it is very important from that spiritual perspective to put them back in the ground as soon as possible. And then that
possible.
would bring about a certain peace
And
and a
maybe you,
healing.
because you're from Station, you probably could ask, how are the people in Station? What's happening in Station now?
Yes.
How are the
Yes.
emotions of the
The
persons in
people
Station?
in Statia. Hmm.
We think
When
it's
they hear this, yeah,
a separate, it's all connected to, it's
connected.
all one with.
Yes.
And
Yes.
about the person saying you're opening portals, you're opening dates, and it's evil. And no, it's not.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's not. Because if your loved one died, what are you going to do? You're going to bury them, right?
Yeah.
You are not opening a portal. You're putting that person to rest. So why would you be opening a portal but putting your ancestors to
Yes. No,
rest?
but I'm happy you say that, because all that we do, we hear the word ritual and we think it's evil, but our burial ceremonies are filled with rituals and symbols,
Of
because
course.
indeed, when a person of ours die, we have a wake. The wake is meant what? You bring people together, you eat, you remember that person, you honor that person.
Correct.
And then you have a ceremony in the church, scripture readings, you have the eulogy, family come together, you grieve, you cry, you go and you look at the body, you close the casket, there are the messages, the preaching, and then the songs that are sung, and the procession out of the church into the burial site, and then you put your loved one in the ground, you throw things in there, whether it's flowers or what have you, you sing, it's a ritual. So
And we're doing the
when
same thing
we
with the
count it, we
ancestors.
are doing the exact same
Correct.
thing. And in other
Correct.
parts of the world, what we do in Statia, what we do in St. Martin, for example, could be looked upon as weird, because
Yes.
in other parts of the world, they do something differently. So I
Different.
think one of the things that I hope people, when they watch this broadcast and when they listen, because this is going to be aired on the radio, that people remember that all we do every day are rituals. And when
Correct.
we lose a loved one, we engage in rituals. We call it a church ceremony with scriptures. We pray. Praying is a ritual. And we
Yes.
pray to a supreme being, which is God, we do that. So I think people should realize that on this path towards the reburial, it is full of rituals. And what we are saying, we have to honor them in the traditional way while taking the station context into consideration. So I think that
Correct.
that is a very important message. I hope really comes across.
And it will. One of the things I ask ancestors for is to open the hearts
Yeah.
of the people of Statia, to open their hearts,
Mm-hmm.
to receive with love,
Yeah. Yeah.
to receive with love, and to remember.
Yeah.
Because nothing here is evil. No
Mm-hmm.
one wants to do anything evil.
Mm-hmm.
As I said, the light for me is essential because we are lights
Mm-hmm.
and we have to help each other light their own. If I see a light is dimming, I should help you light your light.
That's
That's what
correct.
it's all about.
That's correct. That's correct, Uncle. That's so beautiful. Having this discussion is very healing in and of itself, and I hope those who listen and watch will feel the same things, some of the same things that we are feeling. And if not, as you would say too, that's okay.
That's
That's okay.
okay.
All right.
No
So I think
judgment.
no
No
judgment. It's
judgment.
not about you.
No.
It is okay. You have all rights to be
Yes.
angry, to have rights to be skeptical. It is okay. But we are going to do what we have to do to honor the ancestors. That's it.
Correct.
That's it. So in winding down, Enko, as I said before, it is the intention to conduct this ceremony by the end of this year. We're looking at November. If not November, then it would have to be December. But I really and truly hope that it happens this year, because it's very important that we put the ancestors back in the ground. It's a very important something that we have to do. So I want to ask you, are there any closing thoughts, ideas, questions, whatever that you would like to bring forward at this time?
What I would really truly like to say, I would like to thank the people of Statia, actually, for allowing me the opportunity. And I want to thank them because when I came to Statia to do the libation, they welcomed me with open arms and heart. And that for me was an ancestral welcome, an ancestral greatness that I will never forget. So today I want to tell them thank you again for giving me the opportunity to speak to them, and that they will receive it with love, with unconditional love, light, and hope. And Shamida, you and your committee, thank you also again for the opportunity. But most, I want to thank the ancestors for choosing me to be their advocate and to represent them to the best of my ability. Thank you.
Ashe, as they would say.
Ashley.
Yes, Ashe. Lovely, Enko. You and I will continue our conversations as we continue to plan for this very important ceremony. And those tuning in, we thank you very much for listening. And we are interested in getting your feedback. You know where to find me. Those of you who know me will know where to find me. Those of you who know Enko will certainly know where to find her. So we will get your feedback and we will be open to it. And as Enko said, no judgment, but we will continue with this very important task that is ahead of us. So Enko, thank you. Have an awesome day. And we
You
will be
too?
in contact.
For sure. Thank you once again.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.